screen right now. Okay, looking at the Dow Jones Industrial 30, notice how there's a big gap from the closing yesterday with the opening today, and then based on the news, in actual fact, it's revised consumer sentiment 85.1, but something actually happened overnight, especially in Asia. The Nikkei dropped more than 2%, actually close to 3%. Hang Seng was on the positive side, and S&P ASX was 0.13. It was based the Japanese government bought some, I don't know how many billion yen once again. So hence, that's why the yen actually went up to the roof, and the rest of the majors actually did drop. Right, in Europe, at one point in time, they were all in a bad state. It's only the Stocks 50 that was up 0.06%. FTSE, 0.5%, 0.65 with the DAX, and currently, at the moment point in time, 0.2, 0.3, 0.06, which actually we're also going to have a look into that. Okay, just bear with me for 1 second whilst that's actually running. Expand it a little bit, go through index. All right, we have, excluding the weekend, we have 3 trading business days left for the month of July. So I'm going to come back later on, but looking based on the monthly, just so strong, but within 3 days, I don't know what the reports are going to be next week. However, just looking at the price itself, the bulls are just currently way too strong, so we can't fight against that. Weekly, similar with the weekly chart, we have a doji at the moment. So as far as I'm concerned, it has to create a new low somewhere sometime next week before a new continuation of the markets. There's no confirmation based on the weekly. They have to fight between, because at the moment we have a current engulfing between the highs and the lows with the previous high. So they have to fight. Either they will break, create a new low, or we have another inside day pretty much next week. Then if so, we have a higher high, but also we're going to have a higher low, and then we're going to make a decision part of that, either continuation, or if it's going to create a new higher high, then more continuation to the downside. So actually just currently just excited part of that. And on the daily chart, on the other hand, since we created a higher high, just waiting for a confirmation to create a higher low, and then bam, I'm actually going to go to the upside. So per forecast at the beginning of the week, like a short minor correction, and basically currently happened. So all the way to 15.4, and this pretty much happened within the day. And notice how we have a lot of spinning tops, pretty much a lot of uncertainty, and at one point they need to fill in this one, stabilize before continuation. So I'm still very bullish, and I'm just waiting on confirmation for a new pivot point. All right, let's go through looking at the dollar index. Looking at the dollar index, still pretty much tanking as well. Nothing dictating, it's just too powerful. So despite a higher high, they need to retest around the 80-70 mark, but with the strength, the bears are just too strong, so there's no stabilization. So the odds and probability that the markets or the majors are going to continue to go further to the upside is actually highly probable. And based on the monthly, though, I need to wait. We're going to see here we have a new higher high, but a new higher low. So they're going to compete next week as well. I mean next month, to see where the price is going to be. But on the daily, and it's reaching a level of demand at the moment. Major one is this low at this point, 81.33, and actually there's a range or an error between 2 points, 81.50, almost there in terms of the target point, back to 81, actually 33 within these two before continuation to the upside, like in terms of correction, but at this point there's nothing dictating it. All right, look at gold briefly as well. Gold, there was a gap pretty much a few days ago at the very beginning of the week, But overall, I'm still very bearish. I don't think there is really nothing dictating that is going to come back as yet. I mean, medium term, there's going to be a correction back around 1400 an ounce. So just that's an extra another 60 to, I'm sorry, $80 an ounce to head towards there. Correction continuation. But overall, still very bearish. Likewise on the weekly, you can just see it clearly. Lower lows, once there confirmation, you see lower high, next one lower low. So still bearish and reaching supply level actually. And since there's the gap right there, they're gonna fill that gap like there's no tomorrow. Right, crude oil. So what's happening with crude oil? I know crude was so strong, and the price to beat is technically speaking about the 110.56 all the way through there. So if they don't want to, then we're going to see still lower highs. Then there's a possibility it could come back all the way down. But if not, then back to 110, 114. There's a big range of supply right there. So I've been in an area demand area supply. So at the moment, bulls in control. There's no way in terms of defeating that. But on the medium term, there's a little bit more room for this to correct itself before continuation to the upside. Approximately about 102, then that means the CAD will be a little bit more stronger. Okay, on the daily, nothing. We're still pretty much pushing to the downside still. And then once the confirmation and the bulls will take over. Alright, let's go through looking at the markets. Currently I just have the CAD at this point in time for a very short term. You know, it's in an uptrend. My actually stop is from the last low from here, so I will magnify it a little bit. So from that last low, and now we kind of finally, after like 1, 2, 3, we're reaching this point, right? So it filled that gap. So from higher high, higher low, but there's no confirmation in terms of creating a higher low. So if next week they don't want to go beyond this low, then I'm gonna increase my stop to this low if it confirms, and pretty much heading all the way to about that 106. So this point in time, there's actually no confirmation. I'm buying currently in a level demand. Daily chart, you can see I do have a confirmation being an area of demand at the moment, so the risk is actually really, really small. Probability of it winning to come back up at least is highly probable. Right, that's on M1, M2, nothing, and it's on the other sold right there. Let me have a quick look on the weekly briefly. Weekly, there's still back to the 50%, so there's nothing dictating it, which makes sense because based on M3, it's just first time below the 8 or the 10. So next week will be a critical for people who are, basically entered over here. Then there's going to be a new selling area. Okay. All right, based on an M3 methodology, but on the daily chart, nothing, still below the age of 10. All right, so that's the trade. On a Euro Swiss, actually, I hopped out and didn't feel comfortable. It was based on an M1 methodology, and when didn't want to perform all the way to the 124, actually, I hopped out with a 7.2 times actually like a 21 total accumulation in terms of a pip before it came back to the downside. But overall, based on the euro against the Swiss, it is still in an uptrend. So there's also this empty space around this point. If the price can come back all the way to 122.50, then even better. That's a 70 pip difference. Then re-entering to go back in. However, from this point, from a still lower high, going to create a higher low, then the next one either another lower high, or to create a new higher high somewhere sometime. So just waiting basically for something. Daily chart, back to the level of demand. And I like the Euro Swiss sometimes because it's also very predictable. So at one point it comes come back around 123, even better, then I could easily just go back in to go long. So make another 80 pips to the upside. All right, M2 methodology, nothing right there, no setups. Likewise for the daily, no setups. M3 weekly, nothing. It's still pretty much within 8 of the 10, but it's just first time actually it's close 23.30. Yeah, below the 8 and the 10. So but at this point there's nothing. Daily chart, none. It's still pretty much within the game from the point of entry right there. 23, yeah, 20 pips, 15 pips. All right, since those are the two ones, let me go by one. Okay, I'll go through dollar yen and one methodology and the week month. I'm going to look into that. So same, because they're currently fighting at the moment, they don't know where to go. So you have an upper shadow, lower shadow. So I need to wait by the end of the month where this price is going to be. If it goes to the part of the uncertainty, easy, can continue to go to the upside, or if not, break through here to come back all the way down. So 94, currently 98, another 400 pips pretty much to the downside. Weekly chart. So we have part of the uncertainty last week, because you have an inside day right there in Harami in terms of the range, currently creating new lows. So a better ideal part of this is that if it continues to come back, then just to follow in the trend, there's some more room in order for this to create around this level before it may continue to go to the upside. If not around here by December, they need to make a choice either to break to the upside or to the downside. But overall, it's still very bullish, longer term, medium term, bearish. Likewise for the daily chart, shorter term, a little bit more bearish, creating new lows. So it's a continuation of the trend all the way down to around that 94. It's another 400 pips, less than 400 pips to the downside. So it's actually not too bad. Right, M2 weekly, none. So there's more room for the sellers to come back. Daily, nothing. Still more room in order for that to come back all the way down. M3. So that's it. I didn't see. Actually, short, right? 99.63. Holy moly! So there was actually an entry to go short based on an M3 methodology. Can I even see that? Okay, there's one fake out continuation. So from that point, 99.42, 120 pips currently. And then what is a continuation then of that entry point? So the next spot is all the way to around 97. But at this point, there's nothing. Still very much a continuation. Let me double check on the weekly. First time below the 8 of the 10. All right, that's pretty good. Pound against the dollar. Nice. I'm currently everything's closed on my positions with the pound against the dollar. Maybe perhaps there's a little bit more room. However, that is it pretty much. Since still in the downtrend, viewpoint is on the 62%. I need a proper confirmation. Then I believe this is also a good time to do short. Weekly, on the other hand, there's nothing showing to short it at the moment. But the bulls are just too powerful at this point in time. But because it's on a lower low, but you have a higher high, I need to see a proper confirmation in the weekly whether it's time to sell. At this point, there's nothing. Even on the daily chart, it's showing part of the indecision, so they don't know really where to go. But in the level of supply at the moment, then the risk is actually pretty small. Oh, okay, not bad. All right, so there might be a possibility. Hitting that high right there, cool. The last high, however, it did break through that, so we are in a level of supply at the moment. Really, really strong though. 54.78, that's the lot, that's the most one. But there could be more possibility that they can continue around this level before it may drop. But at this point in time, back in the level of supply, the probability is actually really high because it's within that downtrend. Right, I'm gonna wait for that in actually Sunday. Okay, daily M2, no setups. Likewise for the weekly. Yeah, but too strong though. Okay, so there's none. M3, weekly. First time to go above the 8 of the 10. So retesting it. Definitely. Then if next week closes above the 8 of the 10, then we have an entry to go long. Nothing on the daily chart. Great. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss was a little bit more stronger than the dollar against the CAD, but in this particular case, it's currently weak. So lower lows, still next one, lower low, lower high. They will retest this, and if they will come back, actually I would prefer the price going back all the way to 91. That's another 80, 90 pips to the downside. Then if so, then even better. Then heading back to the buying area. So monthly, I believe, is just too strong. Yeah, yeah. Because of this lower shadow, see how they're retesting. What I want to see is the price come over here. Then I'm gonna go to the buying side. Because overall, from here to here, we're in an uptrend, and the next one is to beat that price, technically speaking. But overall, on a bigger time slot, it is on a downtrend. So currently they're in battle. At the moment, there's that upper shadow over there, but they will test that upper shadow. So currently they're just retesting the lower shadow in terms of price, and one point in time they will come back over 97. So it's actually pretty cool. But approximately 500 pips to the upside right there. When time comes. All right, weekly chart, nothing. Bears are in control daily. Still the bears in control, there's none. So there's no confirmation. I'm going to wait a proper confirmation and we'll be buying that actually. Pretty cool. Right, M2 weekly, none. No setups. Daily, no setups. M3 weekly, no setup. Actually, they're saying there to go short, but it's way too far. The price is way too far from the 8 of the 10. 110 pips, so rather stay away. One of our rules is simply not to chase the markets, especially when prices, when there's a lot of force. So M2, M3, sorry, based on the daily chart, there's nothing right there either. Okay, Euro Swiss, looking through it. Aussie. Okay, pretty cool with this as well. I know that there's a proper confirmation from a higher high, higher low. We got in a really good price pretty much last week, about 90.40 around that area. It's one of the classes, even with Trader Dojo over here. So my side, I'm out. I'm just currently waiting at the moment to see if there's going to be some forward retracement. And the reason for it is because it's every time it reaches this area of supply at this point, they don't want to go beyond it. So either one comes back down, get a better price based on the primary uptrend, about 94, yeah, another one at 140 pips. So from here, a higher high, higher low. There's actually, there's a confirmation over there, especially looking at today. So I know the Aussie is still very weak. It's on the monthly chart. Too powerful. Another 3 days, I actually want the price to come back all the way to back to 91 at least. So if it will do that, then great. And then on a bigger time slot, they might retest. See if they might retest the low 89.97. So when that happens, then that will be great. As far as I'm concerned, the price can come back down all the way to 90 around this level, and then before another big push to the upside. So I'm going to retest the demand level before a continuation. So it's not ripe yet, in my own opinion, but if it will break this supply level, then easy, and then back to the long side. However, they need to retest this primary downtrend. Okay, M2, none, but getting to the overbought. That's on the daily. Weekly chart, it's just pretty much the start of things. So, but I just need a proper more confirmation of where we're in. For a normal retail novice trader, probably they're still buying around that area. Okay, at this point. M3, still back to it's within the M3 methodology. It's still pretty much in the game. But the thing is, there's no change part of that. Weekly, it's just currently just touching the 10 at the moment, so this could easily fail as well to the downside. Alright, that is it pretty much for that on the Aussie. So dollar CAD, look into that. The Kiwi, awesome. So Kiwi finally is actually I'm close as well. It's finished. So maybe there's a little bit more room to go through to touch the primary over there. But let's go through on the weekly. Yeah, weekly still very powerful. Nothing because we're new higher highs, higher lows. To make an actual fact from 77, like 300 pips to the upside, it's pretty good for 3 weeks. It's just a matter of just waiting, really. Waited for a very long time. It's more powerful. The Kiwi is more stronger than the Aussie. Now, at one point in time, the Aussie will also have to follow. So on the weekly chart, you can see nice bullish engulfing right there. And there's a form of confluence as well between the fibs. So I reckon back to the 50%. But if the price can come back down to create a new low somewhere sometime on the weekly actually, then back to re-entering from lower high to creating a high. If it creates a higher low, then I will re-enter. The danger part is once it reaches the 50%, it may continue part of the downtrend. But if you don't want to, then the next part of the plan that somewhere sometime it comes back to around the 77.50, then we're going to create much better in terms of the long side. So however, I'm not really convinced that this is going to continue all the way up because of this retest over here. Part of the news basically stated that the valuation of the Kiwi was too much, and they reckon that the value is not the proper price. Hence, that's why they came back down. As far as concerned, is a correction only. Maximum 50% from the top and the bottom. But you know, at the end of the day, next week or the next 2 days, anything can happen. They can easily come back down to this point before there, and then by November, they need to choose either to continue to the upside or to the downside. Alright, that is it for the Kiwi and M1, M2, no, nothing. There's nothing overbought on the daily. M3, way above the 8 or 10. Probability to head back around here, 79.57, yeah, but 130 pips when the time comes. Well, back in the level of supply, the price to beat is around this point, 81.35. Ooh, okay. That would be also nice on a shorter term perspective. There's probably a probability that it could come back all the way down to 79.50. So about 130 pips to the downside for short-term trading. Righty. Alright, that's Kiwi Euro Pound. Euro Pound was a good one. It's just too small though of a drive. But in terms of the correction, okay, it currently happens finished. So we have a higher highs, or higher low, higher high, lower high. Sorry about this point. And the question is, can they push the price all the way down here? Absolutely. I think there's more room in order for this to head back on this level. Right, M2 weekly. No setups, but there's, yeah. I know it's an uptrend, but it's not as strong. They're retesting, going to retest more further here, but there's definitely a new pivot point. The probability of it dropping around that 85 area actually is highly probable. Just looking into it. Daily chart, there's none. We have a doji, And then on M3, still pretty much within the criteria, no change. Daily chart, okay, there's back to the upside. Okay, just looking at the system itself. Alright, so there's one right there. Euro pound, M3. Okay, long. Sweet. Let's go through euro against the yen briefly. Uncertainty. So they're fighting. We have, I probably can't see that much, but we have a higher high, lower high. We have a lower low, higher high at the moment. So stabilization. I'm still very bullish at one point in time. The probability, though, they need to break that high. So next month will be either very interesting. Either they will continue from stabilization, continuation of the momentum from April, or if not, I need to see if they don't want to break that high, then bam, I'm back to shorting. Okay. So there is one. If that will be the new high as of next month, then easy. The price can come back all the way 120,000 pips pretty much to the downside. So that's a good chunk. Weekly chart, same. I need a more proper confirmation. I know we have a dark cloud cover, meaning that the bears currently just gave away everything on what the bulls gave last week. So it created a new high, then out of nowhere, the closing price is way below halfway of the previous body. So that is not a good sign for pattern traders. That's actually a bearish candle right there, but it's proper timing. Need this to come back a little bit. So if we look into that, there's still some empty space around here from the current price 130.50. I want the price to head back all the way to 132. So about 160 pips. I needed to retest it, and when that occurs, then even better. There's actually that secondary right there. But since the price is, in an uptrend, I kind of want to go against that. So I'm going to wait for a proper confirmation next week and then heading to the downside. Nothing in terms of M2. However, there's dictating that there's more room in order for this to head back to the downside. Weekly is also the same. I wish it was a divergence, but there's no divergence between price. So question is this a fake out or this is the fake out? I would prefer if this is the fake out and to come back over there just to retest. M3, none. Just currently first line below there to the 10. So we might have a entry next week, actually. Weekly chart, none. So there you go, 129.28, about 80 pips, just to retest it before a rebound. Okay. So at this point in time, there's none. I'm currently just waiting. Not ready yet. I believe the pound has the same format as the euro. So after all the time, 3 weeks of waiting, they pushed it. So probably just profit taking before further tests around this level. I would prefer the price to come back over here before I really want to short it based on an M1 methodology. Monthly, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a minor correction before continuation. Next price to beat is at 156. So when the right time comes, it's in an uptrend, then I'm actually go along with this trade. So I'm going to be waiting. Nice. M2, no setups on the weekly. Daily, no setups either. M3 on the weekly. Nothing. See if the price will close above it. 51.15, 51, just like 3 pips above the 10. So we create a proper confirmation in an hour and a half's time. Daily chart, first time below the 10, but still in an uptrend. So won't touch it. So, but in M3 there's no setups. Pound Swiss on an M1 weekly, none, but we have a higher high, higher low at this point, back to the level of demand, clear indication. So as of maybe next week, back to the buying board, right? So there's a good opportunity once again to buy back in, just to make another 100 pips. So clear indication there's probably a new change of trend happening, since that low didn't want to supersede this low for this week. But then again, anything can happen next week. It can continue, but once a new technique or new confirmation will happen, then bam, be buying that actually. Nothing on M2 weekly, same. There's nothing. M3 weekly, none. At least retested back to the 10. At least above it for once. Daily, none. From the buying perspective, that is pretty much closed at the moment in terms of exit. They will retest back the 8 and the 10. It will probably be a stronger one the second try, then yeah. Hence lower low, lower high, create a new pivot, and then once a new price above the 8 or 10, better confirmation, then the probability of heading towards the upside is going to be good. So there's a good chance right there. So everything's about waiting now. So like I said, the only one that's left is the dollar CAD. I'm holding it actually for next week, because first time it created a new confirmation of the low. So in actual fact, I'll be buying some more later on in about an hour if I could get a better price. Well, let's see what's happening. So actually the price is still heading up. 0.3, so we have a hammer. Okay, looking at the VIX, yeah, I'm back to the 13. Interesting. We might see new lower lows of the VIX shortly. That's pretty cool. SPX, same. See though, the 1680 is a really strong demand. So they might retest it later on, and then I'm getting ready actually for buying, because we might see more new higher highs next week actually. That's it. Alright, that's it for my report. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you. Have you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you on Monday. And then